how often do you still think about philosophy? What does it really mean for you? Outside of that one college class you probably took, does it really have any purpose in your life? I once had an argument with my father, and he was losing. And he tells me that he was losing because he doesn't have the papers yet, the data, the statistics, the research to disprove what I was saying. I wasn't really making any sort of scientific claim. I was arguing through philosophical frameworks. He tells me that I only won by merit of me having debate skills. But then he also tells me that ultimately, in the end, it doesn't matter because I was going to get disproven by science. And that makes what I'm saying untrue. And that gets me thinking about philosophy and the truth and the purpose of it all, I mean. And particularly, it reminds me of the little I've read of Badiou, the French philosopher. Badiou tells us that there is a problem in philosophy, and that it's now becoming beholden to its own truth procedures, those being art, science, politics, and love. What he means by this is that it's becoming a tool to those disciplines themselves instead of something on its own, something to find truths and universal truths. I haven't read much of Badiou yet, but I am learning. But from what I could gather, it does speak well to a problem that I find with how we think about the day and how we specifically think about philosophy. A lot of people discount philosophy because it doesn't necessarily have a use case or a purpose, right? Well, it does have a purpose according to Badiou, and it's essentially finding the truth process within those processes of those part-truth process. It's this continuous thing or continuous journey, perhaps. But people don't really use philosophy that way nowadays. Whenever I hear about philosophy, people often use it as advice. The most common use for philosophy that I see is advice, or that how to think about your life. It's funny, well, it's technically true, you can use philosophy as advice, but that's not necessarily the point of philosophy. And then people talk about how it can be used in the sciences and maybe science ethics, but then we also use science, how we use philosophy in sciences to essentially gauge our methods in sciences. And the same way for those other truth procedures, like with art, we use philosophy to think about the way we think about art, and then we use politics to justify, we use philosophy in our politics to justify our politics. But that doesn't necessarily constitute a use for philosophy itself outside of those disciplines. And something that shapes all of them, something that shapes the way we see all of them, essentially. I'm trans, right? And one of the more awesome things about being trans is a practical application of philosophy. And how being trans essentially also okay, so if you're gonna go by Badiou and think that my transness is my truth, well, that truth is something that continuously shapes the way I see things. It's framing the way I see science now, the way I experience art, how I experience love. It's been very different and something that I continuously learn about. It's hard to put into words exactly I will be studying more Badiou, but that's essentially what I mean. Philosophy has a purpose in that it's something that shapes your life in this continuous process. If we're gonna talk about the philosophy of my transness, then that transness has shaped my views on a lot of things. Not necessarily just my views, but the way I experience those things. And it's something magical that I want to explore further. And hopefully you'd want to see me explore that further with you too. Not just my trans, but my life as a whole too. Thank you for listening.